Hey everybody, welcome into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. It is the middle of the week. Mm-hmm. It's time for some snap judgments. Who wants to say it? It's Woody Wednesday time.
You wanted to say it.
I wanted to say it. I just thought you guys were going to jump in and have some fun. But no.
I was trying to think of a word to put with hump day, but I didn't come to our show.
I know. It is. That's very nice of you. That's Bill Landis, Jeremy Birmingham, and I am Austin Ward. And it is a chilly Woody Hayes Athletic Center. And the Buckeyes did not practice in here tonight. They practiced outdoors while the snow was coming down. Toughness, competitive stamina, the edge.
Plus, it's just fun to be in the snow.
Yeah.
I don't know if they had fun out there.
Probably not.
Steel Chamber said he did not. He said he hated it. But it is important to understand that if you are trying to instill a culture that is different than the one that got run over in Ann Arbor last year, that sometimes you do something that makes you uncomfortable. And like tonight, when it's 35 degrees and there was sideways snow for a half of the practice, good. You're out there doing it. And you do feel just a different vibe around this team. We talked about it earlier this week. I don't want to belabor the point, but you know that these guys recognize it's a little different.
Well, I think it's one thing if we talk about it the day before and we give examples that were in the game, and then they give us another one on a platter. They're wearing surgical gloves to keep their hands warm underneath and, complaining about how they don't want to be out there. That's another toughness challenge from Ryan Day. And look, they know that they got better by the end of it. Once you get through it, you feel pretty good. And there were a lot of people smiling and feeling optimistic about still the trajectory of this program heading into the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be chilly in Maryland on Saturday. You got to get acclimated to that. Probably going to be chilly in 2 weeks when they play.
Who's that?
They play? Oh, Michigan. They're playing M this week too. No, I don't.
It's M2.
M2. Yeah, M squared. I think you can make like a little. Sometimes I feel like they're trying to prove the toughest thing a little too much. It's like, all right, you practice outside. I get it. It's like I don't know. I don't know what toughness is. I think what toughness is? Winning. Well, just win. I don't care where you practice.
There were some people walking off the field who suggested that maybe a year ago they would have practiced inside.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. You have to do things a little bit different if you want things to be a little bit different. And the Buckeyes don't need to make wholesale changes to the program. It's not like the entire place was on the verge of crumbling a year ago. It's just you have to make a couple things a little bit more difficult for a group of people who are at times coddled and pretty well, spoiled. That's the life of a college athlete, not just here but everywhere. So you got to find some ways to make it tougher. And I think any of those little adjustments matter.
Okay, that's where they practiced. We don't necessarily know how they practiced or even necessarily who all practiced. But there was a nice collection of Buckeyes there to provide some updates and some hints, some stronger and some not so strong. Bill, where will you begin with your lessons from a Woody Wednesday?
Josh Fryer's answer to whether or not he's going to start this week was interesting because he looked like he was about to say one thing and then quickly caught himself and said, I don't know. But
he said, I don't know, and then looked away.
Yeah, so something to monitor. I kind of expect him to play at the very least, if anything, just to rotate guys in and keep people fresh. But I guess we'll know what DeJuan Jones' status is on Saturday, and if they have to go to Josh Fryer, he's clearly capable. So he was talking like a guy who expects he's going to play a fair amount regardless of whether or not he starts.
And you also asked him about if he's been playing only at tackle in practice or how that's worked.
Yeah, he said he's only been a tackle. I asked him if he's done any guard work in addition to the Bison package. He said all tackle. So I was actually maybe slightly surprised to hear that, although I guess he could have been, guarding state secrets. But
guarding.
That's right. No pun intended.
Wow.
I'm not that clever.
We leave that for
That's
Berm.
right. That's the pun man down
he
there.
He did say, I've been only at tackle, but I can play all five.
He can, which is what he said in the offseason too. And I believe it. I think that's his versatility is one of his strong points.
That's why he was recruited out of Indiana when he was. The Buckeyes like a guy who can do a lot of different things. And speaking of people who can do a lot of different things, Steel Chambers can do a lot of different things. He came out and met with the media tonight. It was great, very, very candid about a lot of things, especially about the difference in this year's defensive unit versus last year and just the confidence they have. He very aptly stated that he's glad they have a very active playbook with a lot of different things that they can do. He also said that he believes confidently in Chip Trainum if he's playing running back this week with Dallin Hayden or Mayan Williams or Trayvon Henderson. And he did acknowledge that the reason he stopped playing running back is because he had a tough time holding on to the football. So someone asked him, would you go back to play offense? He said, sure, I would, but I'd probably fumble because that's why I moved to linebacker to begin with.
He wasn't so quick to admit that a year and a half ago.
He's definitely matured to the point where he said, hey, I had a tough time holding on to the ball, so it's good to see him having some fun at his own expense, but it's just another one of those things where these guys there's a different level of confidence and just self-assuredness around this building right now.
Okay, versatile player. I will name another versatile player that spoke tonight, Xavier Johnson. And again, somebody that wanted to be careful with what he said, but also gave a pretty strong hint. I said, I know you don't want to talk about who's healthy enough to play on Saturday. I'm not asking you to. I'm just saying, what have been the conversations with Ryan Day, Tony Alford, Brian Hartline about your role this week? Do you think that it may lean more heavily towards running back? And he said it might. Really the conversation that he said he had with Ryan Day was that he had earned the right to play more at either one of those positions, and that he expected he would play a lot more snaps this week than he has in other weeks. And that when you see what he does, the contributions he makes on special teams, they're supposed to earn you shots on offense. And then when he's got those on offense, we know about the touchdown against Notre Dame, and then that was through the air. And then on the ground at running back last week, just one of the most dazzling runs I think that we've seen, at least this year. I'm not going to put it in the all-time pantheon, but it definitely stood out as one of the best ones we've seen recently. And look, one of those three running backs, maybe even two, probably not going to play or will not be available for every single snap that they would normally have on Saturday. So the easiest stopgap there is Xavier Johnson, and he's more. I don't mean that as the backhanded compliment. He can thrive there, I think. He's good enough to make an impact.
Yeah, I think he is too. It'll be interesting to see him get a larger workload because it felt like in the Indiana game he had like 10 carries. He only had the one. It just went for 71 yards
right.
and a touchdown. But I think he can probably give you like 8 to 10 carries in that game. Dallin Hayden was asked, like, if you have to carry the ball 15 to 20 times, can you do it? I was like, didn't he just carry it 19 times against Indiana? He can very clearly do it. So
some short memories around here.
I think they'll be in fine shape this weekend if those are the two guys they have to rely on.
The cool thing with Xavier is that he's the guy that really changes the offense a little bit. You can do so many different things with him. You saw, he only had the one carry against Indiana, but he did have another play where he was lined up in the backfield and caught a quick swing pass. Like, he's a guy you can do some of that stuff with that maybe you can't get away with Chip Trainum or with Dallin Hayden at this point. So Ohio State a year ago threw the ball to the running backs a lot, and this year it's just not been there. We saw one attempted pass to Mayan Williams on Saturday that was a drop, and I think they want that element in the offense. And so that is another thing that sort of lines up for Xavier Williams to have an opportunity to be out there.
Yeah, was it
Xavier Johnson?
Xavier Johnson, and it was like the Michigan State game that we're like, ooh, here comes some new packages. These are probably for Jackson, but Xavier Johnson can do them too.
Yeah.
And then they disappeared into the ether again, maybe on purpose. Maybe they'll be unearthed later on. Probably don't necessarily need them against Maryland on Saturday, but I think you've seen enough things. Marvin Harrison Jr. called him Weapon X, and like it can use this guy in a lot of different ways. He doesn't have to touch the ball 10 to 15 times to make that big of an impact. Even if Ohio State is shorthanded at running back, they could use him, as you said, Bill. It feels like more even when you just use him a couple times.
Yeah. First of all, Weapon X is Brian Dawkins, and Marvin Harrison
should know better.
Philadelphia should know that. All right. I like Xavier Johnson. He's not Weapon X. I guess he'd be Weapon X.
His name starts with an X. Brian
Dawkins' name does not. I don't know why he was Weapon X. He just was.
He's Weapon BD.
I don't make the rules. He just was Weapon X.
Were there too many people in the stands who couldn't read the K?
It must be it. Yeah, it's just simple. Yeah. Let's call him Weapon X. No, I think
Brian Daxons.
There were a couple plays in that Michigan State game when Xavier was lined up in the backfield where they ran one concept on this side and a screen for Xavier on the other side, and CJ just never got to the screen, but he got to it twice, I think, last week against Indiana. And I just it's easy offense. Sometimes it feels like it's maybe a little too complicated when they're trying to move the ball down the field. Just flip it to Xavier, get a couple blockers in front of him. He can get you 10, 12 yards. He's a playmaker with the ball in his hands for sure.
We also heard tonight from Teron Vincent, Ty Hamilton, two guys that have been playing really good football. And there's a lot of talk in media circles, as we are wont to do, where we look sort of past the game that's coming because there's a bigger one down the road. But I don't get the sense these guys are doing that. They're aware that Maryland has some weapons and they run the ball fairly well. So those guys are going to be on sort of high alert this weekend, heading into a game that you'd imagine Maryland is hoping the Buckeyes are coming in there looking ahead, because that is a, upset alert type moment where thankfully it's not a noon game where you have like an even sleepier situation, but the Buckeyes are going to get there. It's going to be 35 degrees. They're going to have to be getting dressed outside in the parking lot. Like, it's a weird vibe all around. So, hearing those guys talk, you can tell they're ready for what's coming, and they know that they have to win this weekend and to take care of business. And not that they have to win, as we got into a big hullabaloo yesterday, but they want to
better
win.
For everybody.
They want to win this weekend, and they are ready for Maryland's offense, which is among the more diverse they'll face all year.
I don't know if it was just how chilly it is in here, or it was you starting to praise a Mike Loxley team. But I don't know why my body started shaking when it did. It was involuntary either way. Come on, Berm. They've scored 10 points in the last 2 games. Stop it with this.
Okay.
It's competitive excellence. He treats everyone the same.
That's true.
I hope that on Saturday night, snap judgments at whatever their field's name is, Bird Stadium or something. Bird Field.
No, they sold the naming rights a bunch of times.
Whatever it is.
Is it Capital One Field?
Whatever it is, I hope that we are able, after the game, to stand there and do our snap judgments, and for you to go, see, Berm, you idiot. That was not a big deal.
I would never use that language.
I'm granting you permission to do that if it occurs.
He's never done that before.
Now, in the same vein, if this game is closer than you think it's going to be, I will expect to, pile it on.
Okay. I will call you an idiot, and you can call me a moron.
Yes.
I'll just call you both friend.
That's very nice of you.
Anything else that you picked up tonight?
Hey, that's what I was going to say.
I have a question for you.
I like
Because
questions.
you're the recruiting guru. I asked Alan Hayden this question because he very naturally sees that cutback lane on some of those outside zone runs. He said he ran it a lot in high school. Was that a major emphasis of his recruitment that you recall?
He was just a guy that they liked the fact that he was a one cut back, and they didn't really have that. And down, the reason that Tony Alford really went after him was because of his football acumen and just the ability to see plays developing. They had other running backs on the board, but they just liked his entire package, and the fact that he was a guy whose father played in the NFL and that he understood offensive football. Tom McDaniels, the head coach down there, is a guy that has Ohio roots, so there's a little bit of background there. But they just liked that he was a complete back, and certainly not a player that's out there dilly-dallying around. Dilly-dallying.
He did it. He did it. I was going to talk more about Ty Hamilton, but I can't. That's the end of Snappy Jays on a Woody Wednesday. I don't even know how you can top that one or how your mind works. It's a strange, scary place in there. Anyway, a lot of coverage coming on Thursday. We have a special guest joining us. No, it's not someone from the Maryland beat. We're going to talk to Cameron Brown on the podcast daily on Thursday morning. And then the lightning round will be live streamed at about 12:50. What else do you have coming, Berm? Do you have any recruiting stuff in the pipeline?
I will have a Bermanology on Friday with a player who made an official visit to Ohio State last weekend. You can do the math there. There's only one guy that did, so go to ohiostate.rivals.com and you can figure that out. But yeah, that's about it. And then Friday, we're going to be on the road to Maryland. So we're going to need your questions for road breaks. You can drop them in this podcast as opposed to Friday morning's bold predictions video, or you can go to ohiostate.rivals.com and ask us there.
And if you're not a member, sign up now. Use the code DTE30. We'll see you there. Berm likes to chat the whole way when we're driving. Not while driving. We don't let him behind the wheel anymore. He lost that privilege because he was talking to too many people online instead of driving. No, he wasn't. That was a lie, America. I don't know why I said that. That wasn't true.
Straight up impunity. Unbelievable.
That wasn't true. That's Bill, Berm. I'm Austin. We're having a good time on Snap Judgments. And the Woody Hayes Athletics are on Wednesday. Saturday, 3:30, Buckeyes and Maryland. See you there.